Namaste. Amen, and blessed be. That fifth principle that I was looking for earlier says that we covenant to affirm and promote the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process in our congregations and in society at large. Among our 7 principles, this is number 5. Most of us remember number 1 and number 7 pretty well, but 2 through 6 get a little bit lost. But this 5th principle is the one that smacks us in the face every time we open the paper or turn on the news. The health of American democracy is a daily dinner table conversation in a way that I'm guessing it hasn't been since the founding of our country. Democracy is the issue of the day outside our walls, and today after the service, we'll hold our annual business meeting. It's the time when we elect our leaders and approve a budget. It's the single most democratic moment we have as a congregation. So today I wanted to spend some time taking a closer look at something we sometimes take for granted. We covenant to affirm and promote the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. It's a powerful statement because it succinctly names 2 counterbalancing commitments. We recognize the right and responsibility of each one of us to speak out and act out on behalf of justice. And we recognize that the democratic process, flawed as it is the best tool we have for making decisions in a community. Over the past couple of months, I've been juggling these 2 commitments in my own mind. Last Sunday afternoon after the worship service, I jumped in a car with 3 Tapestry members and drove to Sacramento. Actually, I napped in the back seat while someone else drove. We went there to participate in a day of action with the Poor People's Campaign. The Poor People's Campaign is a multi-issue movement across the United States that's trying to create a moral awakening. The campaign touches on a lot of different issues: environment, healthcare, militarism, gender equality, immigration, education, and more. All while keeping focus on the increasing number of poor and marginalized people that seems to be growing in our country. I started following the Poor People's Campaign for 2 reasons. One was their commitment to this multi-issued approach. Just like we try to build beloved community here at Tapestry, they understand that our liberation is all tied up together. The other reason that I've been following the campaign, and the reason I wanted to go to Sacramento, is that they have a deep understanding of nonviolence and civil disobedience. For the past several weeks actually, in state capitals across the country, the Poor People's Campaign has organized large-scale demonstrations. They're trying to draw media attention to the basic immorality of poverty and exploitation in this ridiculously wealthy country. Each week the campaign focuses on a different issue. So this week the focus was on environmental issues and universal health care. Leaders from the American Indian movement did a great job describing for us the link between the health of our planet, the health of our bodies, and our moral health. So Greg Klein, Angela Jansen, Linda Jurgen, and I were all excited to get involved, and each one of us considered risking arrest. After some serious deliberation, each for our own reasons, decided this wasn't our moment. We were there to support the movement, not to be at the center of it. So the day culminated in a gathering at the Rotunda in the state capitol building. Some of you have probably been there. There in this large hall is a gigantic statue of Christopher Columbus. For a couple of hours, we chanted and sang around the statue. Eventually, a small group of activists removed the velvet ropes that surround the statue and stepped toward it, beyond those ropes. Everyone thought that this act of trespassing would result in arrests. It did not. To elevate the situation, the activists each draped a small banner over this gigantic marble statue. Our indigenous leaders took the first steps. One after another, 13 people were arrested. They were charged with 3 different crimes, including vandalism. It was quite the day. At least a few members of the state assembly watched from the second-floor balcony of the rotunda, and the local Sacramento news station picked up the story. We hoped for better media coverage. Still, the day felt like a success because we built new relationships and increased our ability for bigger and stronger actions in the future. It was fun to be there with Tapestry members Monday as we supported a communal act of consciousness raising to draw attention to the issue, to encourage a moral awakening. Did you know that 13.8 million households in the United States cannot afford clean drinking water? A lot of them are here in our liberal paradise of California. Did you know that the environmentally disastrous practice of fracking to extract fossil fuels is widely practiced here? Because our California law allows it. I didn't either. That's why I went to Sacramento to participate in action. I realized that I needed an awakening. And I wanted to be part of a campaign's attempt to draw attention to these perfectly legal, perfectly terrible realities. Participating in civil disobedience recognizes that sometimes you have to go beyond the rules to fix them. That was one experience of the past month. The other experience I had was reading the book, How Democracies Die, by Stephen Levitsky and Daniel Ziblatt. A handful of our Tapestry members read this together for the minister seminar. I selected it because it offers a pretty balanced analysis of what's going on right now. The two authors made a very clear and compelling argument that I'm still chewing on. They said that a well-written constitution and checks and balances of different branches of government are not enough to keep democracy on the rails. They also said that well-intended voting public is not enough. Voters have lives, and their decisions are only as good as the information they receive. All of these pieces are necessary but not sufficient for democracy to thrive. In this book, the authors argued that the key factor that causes the downfall or success of democracies throughout history is an adherence to some unspoken norms. For democracy to thrive, leaders have to use forbearance. They need to refrain from using their full power, even their legal power. They must refrain from destroying their adversaries. Also, political parties must express a sense of mutual toleration. They must publicly acknowledge their adversary has a valid right to exist, and that the health of both parties, or perhaps I should say all parties, bolsters the health of our democratic process. The authors of How Democracies Die raise some very sobering warnings about what they see occurring in the United States. And they made it clear that matching the incendiary rhetoric and the no-holds-barred style to confront Donald Trump will actually further the decay of our democracy. We have to be vigilant in defending the rules of play. For the sake of our messy but beloved democratic government, we have to refrain from sliding into coercive tactics and flat-out lying. Or, as Michelle Obama so succinctly put it, when they go low, we go high. Whoever they is, in order to preserve democracy, we need to preserve a sense of civility and mutual problem solving. Lifting up the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process in one sentence is a serious challenge for Unitarian Universalists. Functional democracy depends on adherence to a set of pretty polite rules of engagement. Yet, most of the justice in this country, in fact, the enfranchisement of the majority of the people, has been won by women and men refusing to play by the rules, acting out, speaking up, breaking the law even. We walk a very narrow road in our commitment. In college, I studied political science, and I was fascinated by this machinery of documents and parties and offices. Now I'm more fascinated by how democracy corresponds with how we understand ourselves as people in this great big world, in this great big universe. Democracy depends on several beliefs that are really core to us in our tradition. One is the belief that people have a capacity to make good decisions. That's sometimes hard to recognize in our culture because it's the water that we swim in, right? But remember, for millennia, societies were ruled by conquerors, monarchs, and religious leaders. The people of those societies often accepted the power structure as obvious. They believed that God chose one person or one family to rule. God gave that individual the attributes necessary to lead. And if any ruler was able to conquer the area by force, well, then he had the authority to rule it. Over the centuries, it wasn't just because our understanding changed, not just because our understanding of leadership changed, but also because our understanding of people changed. We came to learn that people are pretty logical and mostly moral. They will consider complicated ethical issues that may take priority over efficiency or economic factors. I know those are vast generalities, and there are systems to keep our wobbling democracy in check. But at the end of the day, we believe in the wisdom of people, not just as individuals, but people making decisions together. We believe that we are wiser together. So I've rambled on with abstractions about democracy and human nature. Very soon, we will have the opportunity to see those ideas in action. Our annual meeting sometimes feels like a silly formality. This is an exceptionally busy year, so the meeting is a little more exciting. But I want to suggest that our annual meeting is important, not just because we have a building project underway. Our annual meeting is important because democracy is important to us. It's a reflection of our faith in the goodness of each person. And it's a way to amplify our wisdom through conversation with each other. Every member of this congregation has a vote that is equal in the process. Yes, every vote is equal. It's commonly said that in volunteer organizations or congregations, 20% of the people do 80% of the work. Those numbers exist for a wide variety of reasons. I think the number holds true for Tapestry. 20% of the people do 80% of the work. That doesn't mean that 20% of the people hold 80% of the power. Those volunteers who are most involved at Tapestry serve the entire community and our shared vision. We've actually done a pretty darn good job at cultivating leaders and volunteers who understand that this is everyone's congregation, no matter how much work one person puts into it. We share the understanding that this is a democratically run, beloved community that seeks to serve and welcome all who would call Tapestry their home. I'm confident that our meeting will run smoothly. I have no doubt about that. Just like in our national democracy, no official document or structure can ensure a true functional democracy, but putting our shared vision to use requires us to engage in conversation with a higher ideal in mind. So today I want to challenge us to take what we see in and among this community with us into the broader world. Like I said, I know our annual meeting will go well. Even if we disagree on some details, we'll find a resolution together, knowing that everyone wants what is best for this community. I challenge us all to keep that same spirit of respectful dialogue alive beyond these walls. Amen.